Hello and welcome to Raw Chatter. I am your host speaking, Vicky Midwood, health coach and addiction eliminator, and I am not solo on this episode. Hooray! I have got an amazing guest with an incredible story to share with you. Claire is a functional health specialist, and we actually met in a women's networking group, didn't we? And we got chatting, and I just had to get her on to share with you guys her amazing story that helps you to understand why she does what she does. So, Claire, thank you for joining me, and over to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me. And just so everybody's aware, when you're watching this back, I have a little silver tabby called Honey. She's very vocal, and she's probably going to come and say hello because she loves anything where there's a video camera. So I'm going to partially apologise, but not really apologise in advance. And she has the biggest meow for the smallest cat. So I'm just going to put that out there now as my little disclaimer. I'm not a crazy cat lady, but I am a crazy cat lady. But she'll come and say hello. So,
Fabulous.
How did I get into doing what I do?
Yeah, how did you?
Oh, are you sitting comfortably? Got a cup of tea? This is a bit of a journey. So when I was in my teens, I was very sporty and very athletic, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I did BTEC, A levels, blah blah blah. Went off to uni, did sports science, graduated, and spent the first part of my early career working in sports centres, doing a whole variety of different roles, travelled around the world for a little bit, teaching swimming. It's a really nice gig. If you're not sure what you want to do, you just need a bit of time out, go and teach swimming in the sunshine somewhere. It's lovely.
Sounds ideal.
It's fabulous. I went to some really cool places, but that's not why we're really here. And I came back and returned back to health and leisure. Ended up in a training and leadership role, which I really, really loved, which then took me down a little side route of something completely different from doing, practical wellbeing, working with people recovering from surgery, doing hands-on PT, teaching ETM classes, so exercise to music classes and all that type of stuff, and delivering loads of vocational training. So I ended up in the corporate world.
Wow. So can I just ask you, in the health and leisure world, were you mainly like working for councils, or were you working for private companies then?
Oh, a little bit of both, and a little bit of working for me as well.
Okay, so quite a workaholic, quite a worker bee.
Yeah, I had lots of fingers and lots of pies.
Right.
So I've worked for the likes of Virgin Active, David Lloyd, but I've also worked for local authorities.
Right.
So I've worked for Slough Borough Council, Windsor and Maidenhead, Chichester District Council. So I've been all around the place really.
So what got you jumping into corporate then? How did that come about?
How did it happen? So I had a really bad employee experience with a chain of health clubs that shall remain nameless, and to protect their wrongdoing, quite frankly. At that point, I decided I didn't want to work in another health club ever again because it was just so frankly awful. So I decided I would go and use all my skills, because in that space you learn everything from dealing with grumpy members and customers through to technical operations, learning and development, people management, and then a lot of safety and compliance. So I ended up working for a small family-run waste company just down the road from where I live. Here comes the cat. I tried it. Hello, meow. And I was basically specialising in basic compliance, so I looked after people and safety. So I would look after all the HR and people management, and then all the practical safety side of it. Did a raft of safety qualifications. Ended up working for a big PLC. Started off as a regional safety advisor, so that means that you look after a patch of the country. Sorry about the cat. Actually, I'm not sorry. I'm just going to give up. She can say, she'll jump up in a minute and say hello. So I ended up working for a big PLC. Started off as a regional safety advisor. So I looked after like a patch in the southeast of different locations, and basically helped the location managers implement systems, process, all these good things that kept their people healthy, safe and well. Loved it, had a great time. Was quite good at what I did, so got promoted. Then became like the head of safety for that bit division I worked in, and then the head of safety for the whole organisation. Now that was a scary big jump.
I was going to say that's from just your little patch to
my little patch to like then my division to then actually you're going to do it for the whole company. Yeah, that was scary. That was big. But actually, I was really fortunate. I worked for a really good employer. They invested quite a lot in our training and development, our soft skills. Right. I'm not going to lie, it was a busy, full-on job. You're looking after ultimately the safety of 10,000 people who do practical hands-on jobs every day. And quite dangerous jobs. So it was busy. There was a lot going on.
Yeah.
And I was probably my mid to late 30s at that point. I had just finished an MBA. So MBA, executive MBA to give it its proper title in leadership and business admin, which was fabulous.
How did you have time to do an MBA while you're doing this job?
Well, so part of the way that the organisation looked after the people is they were really, really keen to invest in our training and development. Right. One of the things that they would do is part fund or wholly fund us to go off and do professional courses. So I was lucky enough to have part funding for an MBA. But whilst I wasn't there, it gave somebody the opportunity to step into my shoes and try my job out.
Okay, so it was kind of a win-win across the board then. Brilliant.
Yeah, so I went to uni 2 days 1 week, had a week off, then went 3 days the other week. So I'd go Thursday, Friday, Saturday 1 week, then have a week off, and then I'd go Friday, Saturday the week after. So I was never really massively out, but for those days I wasn't there, somebody could step into my shoes. It's great to work out whether you like that role or not. Yeah. And actually, as I was coming up through my progression, that would have been really cool to have. To go, actually, do I really want to do that job? Do I like it enough to want to do it? Brilliant. Oh, no, I don't. Okay, I'm quite happy staying where I am. So I had somebody fill my shoes for me when I wasn't there. And I graduated. I specialised in organisational psychology. So why do organisations do the things they do? Why do people do the things they do?
So many questions there.
I've got so many questions. You guys was like, why do they do the things they do? But as part of that kind of like nerdy academic process, I'd possibly become a little bit jaded and a little bit cynical about the world of business. So I was kind of returning full-time back into my role going, is this really what I want, actually? Because ultimately, when you look at big business, no matter what they tell you in their marketing, they're there to make money.
Yep.
Ultimately, that's why they're there. And I was like, actually, I'm starting to feel a bit like a number, not a person.
Ooh, not a nice place to be.
No. And I was like, But actually, when you look at the organisation, they're a fabulous employer. They do so much great stuff to look after their people. But I was having this bit of, I'm not sure this is for me. It kind of feels like it's got a bit too big. Maybe I want to go back to work somewhere smaller than, just stay here. And that's kind of like one element of my story. And now we're going to take like a hard left and go on a little tangent. I was getting ready to start a PhD. So I was going to become Dr. Claire in organisational psychology. I know that's really exciting, isn't it?
Well, you obviously got the bug of having done your MBA then.
This is another tangent. I would say I'm sorry, but I'm not really.
No, don't worry. Because this is where people, I think it's really interesting for people listening to know that you don't have to follow one path. You can go down different alleyways and different roads and different paths and check it out. And it's good because it helps you to be who you are now and do what you do. So tangent away.
Yes, tangent number 1. Okay. So I remember when I was at secondary school and we were doing those national records of achievement, those little burgundy folders that were said to be the most important thing in the world and we're going to follow you everywhere. It might have just been a southern thing. But yeah, at the time when we were doing these were the most important thing in the world. And I remember writing in mine that I was going to be the first person in my family to go off and get a degree. And then I wanted to do a master's degree. So that was like a very early intention from when I was probably 13, 14, 15, something like that, 14-ish.
Cool.
And I was like, So I did my undergrad degree, and I was kind of like, I'm not really feeling a master's in sports science. I know I want to go out and I want to go work and do stuff. So when the opportunity came around, I was like, actually, yeah, totally. I'm like, I'll totally take up the option of an MBA because it opens so many different doors. And just gets you to think about the world in a really different way, and it definitely did that. So I decided that one of the exit routes from my particular MBA was you could do a PhD. And I was like, I'll totally take you up on that. And they're like, yeah, organizational psychology, people and culture. I'm like, yes, definitely. So I graduated in the summer. I was getting ready to go back to uni the following January. But in between that, this is where the big thing kind of happens. I am, because I still am, a mountain biker, and I was riding my bike on a Sunday morning and had a bit of an accident. Now, I say a bit of an accident.
Understatement.
Yeah, this was like the thing that changed my future, quite frankly.
Pretty huge, Claire.
Yeah. Pretty huge. And yeah, so I had a bit of an accident on my bike, changed my whole rest of my life. And it was fair to say it was a life-changing accident. There were lots of really big injuries. So I look fairly normal now, but I've had surgery to repair my face, put it back kind of almost symmetrically. I've learned to talk again. I've learned to learn again because previously I had a photographic memory. Now I don't have that. Now I have to learn like a normal mere mortal. It's a bit sucky, got to be honest.
Welcome to the normal world.
Welcome to the normal world. Oh my God, it's awful. I'm like, how do people do this? So it's like I'm trying to put posting notes and lists and everything else. I've damaged the part of my brain that looks after executive function,
Right.
game faces, the bit that controls the thinking before we speak. Now it tends to verbalise. Then I go, oh, sorry, wasn't meant to come out like that. So yeah, there's things I've had to learn to live with.
So just to put people in the picture, it was a car literally careered into you and you went flying. No. Tree? Another bike? A tree?
Mountain bike, yeah, mountain bike, over the bars, into a tree, knocked myself out, did lots of really gruesome stuff that we don't need to share.
Right, so you went flying into a tree, and obviously the damage to your head was huge. Yeah,
massive. So I hope you're not too squeamish. If you are, just fast forward.
This is raw chatter. We can be as raw as we want to be.
So as we can be raw, I hit a tree at about 25 miles an hour with that bit of my face.
Wow.
Yeah. So when I say big injuries, that now kind of gives you a little bit of context. And when you get really nerdy about mechanisms of injury, of which I am one of those people, there's obviously the first impact of my face in the tree. There is the secondary impact of my body landing on the floor, and then my face landing in a tree stump. Yeah, that. And then my bike then coming to rest on top of me. Ouch. So there's a lot of ouch going on. So
and I just want to delve into this a little bit more because I'm picturing that it's probably a quiet-ish road. It's a Sunday morning. How long are you there for?
It's a bridle way in our local woods. So relatively quiet. It's relatively early on a Sunday morning. It's a lovely little downhill section, gotta be honest. And I'd gone into it thinking, I'm going to get to this bit, get a little bit of air, see if I can get my top speed down here. Didn't even get that far, got to be honest. It all went wrong way before that. I don't really remember much. But I was riding with my husband, so I wasn't riding on my own.
Right, okay. So there was somebody
that back up the hill, come and find me, saw this splattered me.
Yes.
Called an ambulance. Waited a long time for the ambulance to come. It's cold. It's November. Really cold. I remember kind of coming round and thinking, Christ, that really hurts. As I'm a bit like this, really.
God.
Okay. My God, that really hurts. I've done something really stupid. I'm like, can I move my feet? Yeah. Can I move my hands? Yeah. Okay. Well, it's not that bad then. And actually, I tried to sit up, and I was like, oh no, can't be doing that. But the reason why everything really hurt is I've broken my wrist. I'd broken 4 ribs on one side, my sternum, dislocated, fractured my collarbone, dislocated my jaw, had a chunk of tree sticking in that bit of my face over here, and knocked out some teeth. And then I had a tree go through my chin there and come out in front of my bottom teeth down here. So it was gruesome.
Horrific is the word. Yeah, gruesome, horrific, all of the above.
Yeah. But do you know what? Concussion's great because I don't remember a lot of this. I've got to be honest.
For the brain's safety mechanism then.
Thank God for the bike helmet and concussion, because actually a lot of this I don't remember. My poor husband remembers all of this in really graphic, intimate detail.
Yeah. Wow.
And I remember being in the hospital, them stitching up bits of my face, and it's a teaching hospital, so I had the great privilege and honour of having lots of medical students pull and prod up my face, because you don't see injuries like this where I live very often because it's a relatively safe southern coastal town. So yeah, I had lots of that. And I then remember, and this is okay to laugh, being in this bed in a lot of pain, trying to drink. And I couldn't work out why my t-shirt was getting wet. Now, I had no idea at all. But obviously I've got a great big wound here that's been stitched on both sides, and I've got a great big wound there that starts from the inside of my bottom teeth and there. So actually it's not really surprised that as I'm drinking this blackcurrant squash, because I haven't eaten anything all day and it's now like 2 o'clock in the morning, that I can't work out why my clean t-shirt's got blackcurrant on it. And now we can look back and think it's incredibly funny, because I was a bit like a human sieve. But actually at the time it was really stressing because I was like,
what's going on? I just want to drink.
I just want to drink. Why's it coming out? So we look back on that and we laugh now, but at the time it was horrible. So that was the kind of pivotal thing that really changed
everything.
But the other really pivotal thing was that was just before my 40th birthday. And ladies in their late 30s start to go through a bit of a menopausal transition. I was blissfully unaware of this at that point in my life. I had no idea what was going on. And I couldn't work out why. I had a really great healthy gym habit. I was a big body pump fan, loved spinning, all the rest of it. And I couldn't work out why I just couldn't shift the weight, and I was turning into a bit of a fat knacker. And literally really, really good nutrition. Absolutely on it with my nutrition, on it with my exercise and my movement. And I was like, there with my steps, everything else. And I was like, what is going on? So I very naively joined a body transformation program that was being run by one of the PTs at our local gym. And that was all about hitting a certain number of calories a day, so being a calorie deficit, having a certain number of grams of protein a day. That's quite easy. That's really easy, actually.
With an app. There's an app for that.
Absolutely, app for that, app for everything. And then hitting a certain amount of cardio and then certain amount of strength training. Now, this particular week, I knew I was going to be away with work, and where I was going to with work, it's not a particularly safe place to be going out on your own, walking the streets, trying to get your cardio in. So I was like, you know what, I'll pre-bank it. I'll go out on my bike on Sunday morning and
get the cardio in before I go away.
Get my cardio in before I go away, because I can do the strength stuff either in my hotel room using body weight or when I get back. Whereas cardio, I don't really like it to start with. So it doesn't bring me joy, doesn't bring me interest. I wouldn't get out of bed to go off and do it. I would only do it because either a group of my friends were going to do it, or there was a different way to do it where it didn't feel like doing cardio, hence mountain biking, because it didn't really feel like cardio.
Makes sense.
You know, I'm a straight through and through strength, give me weights, give me things to hit type of girl. And it's like, you know, none of this, you know, step and nonsense.
Aerobic dancing and stuff.
No, way too much coordination going on there. Give me a sledgehammer and tire and I'm perfectly happy. Or, you know, something to box. I'm like, yeah, cool. So that's how I ended up out on my bike on a Sunday morning, was because I was taking part in this ridiculous body transformation program. And I say absolutely ridiculous because a body of my size and shape cannot exist on 1,400 calories a day. Absolutely not at all in any stretch of anybody's imagination. It is absolutely so completely unhealthy. To then load excessive amounts of cardio and strength training onto the end of that.
Yeah.
Like,
and then the stress of tracking it all and measuring it all.
Yeah.
And
try not to be the one in the group that puts on weight or doesn't lose or all that stuff.
And ladies listening who have gone through that, I'm sure have jumped on it and know exactly what you're talking about, not realizing that hormones, perimenopause is what's happening. And bless instructors, we're not taught about that. I was trained to be instructor, so were you. It wasn't part of our training. I think that's changed now, or it's changing.
I've got to go in the human body and I still didn't know about it.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And I wasn't trained in it until I was very fortunate that my first clients when I first started out were women going through menopause. And so they mentioned that word. And at 21, it was like I had never really heard of it. I didn't really know. But yeah, but I was very fortunate and I was very lucky. But the getting any information back in 1991 was quite a challenge.
Yeah, because the M word didn't exist then.
Yes.
Yeah. So yes, and you know, my PT, lovely, great if you want to do strength-based stuff. Great if you're a bloke. Not so great if you're a female. Not possibly the wisest and most educated when it comes to all things hormones.
Yeah.
So
your accident then kind of had an effect, obviously, on your whole body function because it all comes from your brain, doesn't it?
Yeah, so literally, so hormone regulation comes from the brain, emotional regulation comes from the brain. And all of this is just like completely up in the air. And with a concussion, there is a systemic body-wide inflammation reaction. And literally, when you look at somebody's biochemistry with a concussion or a mild traumatic brain injury is now what they may refer to it as, because they've now recognised actually it is a form of trauma to the brain. It's not just a bump on the head. It's a little bit more serious than that. And that they now go, actually, when you look at somebody's biochemistry and you monitor their blood over the first couple of weeks, you see some really interesting stuff.
I can imagine. Fascinating.
Yeah. Absolutely fascinating. Could nerd out on it all day long, but I'm not going to do that for you. And the aftercare that I had from the hospital was truly atrocious. So literally, I was probably discharged 16 to 18 hours after I first went in.
Wow.
There we go. My lovely husband took me back to hospital the following day with all the classic signs of a head injury that had been missed.
Goodness me.
And some other bits and pieces had also been missed. And then it was just like, okay, off to the dentist to try and get my teeth fixed. Because the NHS wouldn't look after my teeth. I had to go back to my own dentist to have those done. And obviously, as a lady, I don't really care about the scars on my face. Do I care that I'm missing my front teeth? Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
I was like, all the things I was really concerned about was my teeth.
Understandable. And this is where we realise that, the NHS are usually very good in things like heart attacks and broken limbs. But when it comes to something that's a little bit more involved, a bit more in depth, and you can't physically see, like you can't see the brain and the damage, that's unfortunately where they just don't have the pieces in place. They don't join the dots. And it's frightening what gets missed, isn't it?
Oh my God, yes. So I went through a couple of surgeries on my face to put it back together again, and a whole variety of interesting scars and things. I probably spent 6 months eating mashed potato and ice cream, obviously not at the same time, or really soft rolls with like chocolate spread in them because I couldn't bite.
Couldn't bite, couldn't chew.
Yeah, couldn't bite, couldn't chew. So it's literally like I would have like my soft roll and break it up into tiny little bits about the size of my thumbnail and just kind of like just have a tiny little chew and then like, yeah, it's a bit like feeding a duck, I've got to be honest. I was just there with my soft rolls. So I was, as you can imagine, off work for a really long time. Work were really, really good about it. As I went through my recovery journey, I hadn't realised how big it was going to be. I thought a couple of weeks I'll be back.
Ever the optimist, Claire. Yes.
I thought I'll be back to work by Christmas. Yeah, don't worry about it, Christ, no. Completely not at all. And it was only when I started to do normal things again that I actually started to realise the extent of my facial injuries and my head injury. So part of my corporate role was talking at conferences and going to inspire people to do something bold and different back in their own organisation. And because of all the damage here, so you've got nerves that run down here that innervate to basically control how your bottom lip works. I've cut those, they didn't work. So my bottom lip was like a bit like that.
Right.
And basically it just didn't work. So it was very difficult to talk. I couldn't purse my lips to kiss my husband, just small things like that. And at the time, my scars were really vibrant and really red. So now they don't really show, but at the time, it's like I had like bright red lipstick on here and down there.
Wow.
Really, really obvious. My face was like that. And it looked like I'd had a stroke.
Goodness. Wow.
Yeah, so it looked really bad. And then on top of the head injury stuff, which affected my ability to stand upright and not wobble. Stand on one leg, couldn't do that. So as you imagine, when you're walking, you are effectively standing on one leg at a time, just in quick repetition. Really struggled to actually maintain my balance, my depth perception. So the ability to go up and down stairs and work out where the stairs are was really challenging. So many things.
And this was a complete shock to you because I'm guessing, did anybody prepare you that these things might crop up? Were you just having to discover, oh my God, this is weird, or I can't do that?
I'm like, oh, there's a new thing today. Stairs are really difficult. Or,
right.
Oh, there's a new thing today. Bright light really hurts. Because I just have sunglasses. Yeah, or actually, oh, here's a new thing. Oh, we're out in town and actually it's a really chilly wind. My face really hurts. Can we go home? Gone out with my girlfriends and it's like, oh, actually it's a bit loud, I'm going to go home, don't like the noise. So yeah, it was like a whole new world.
So a lot of those symptoms that you're describing there then sound very similar to some of the symptoms that people with ADHD or with autism experience. Yeah, which is, as we know, it's brain derived, it's the whole nervous system function.
Yeah, so literally all of that, and then started to navigate the getting in a car, driving again. Soon discovered I don't like driving at night because I don't like the bright headlights. I don't like sunshine. Well, I love sunshine, but just not without my sunglasses on. And I was like, well, driving at night's really difficult. When you do a job where you drive all around the country all year round, actually that becomes a bit of a limiting factor.
Yes.
You're like, oh, okay, this is going to be a bit like, oh, how do I navigate this? I'd started to go back to work very slowly, so on a really, really long phase return to work. And I remember my first day where I went back to head office. So the head office the organisation I worked for was up in Buckinghamshire. I lived down on the south coast, a big old drive to then get to work and then try and do half a day's work and drive home again. I was exhausted by the time I got to work. I looked like death. And this is the first time I've been back in the office for probably 5 or 6 months.
Wow.
So I've chatted to people and stuff over Teams because that's what we were using back then. And, that was okay. But actually doing the drive and then going in the office, being with the people, I was like, oh, this is a lot.
It's too much.
Too much. And then that's when I kind of started to unravel the being in the right place at the right time. So I went all the way to head office to go to a meeting that was an in-person meeting. We couldn't do it remotely because this was back in the days before COVID, where we had to go to places to do stuff. We couldn't do it like this. And I'd driven all the way there, and I'd got talking with somebody, completely lost track of time. I was like, yep. And then looked down at my watch and went, oh, I'm sure I'm supposed to be somewhere. Looked at my phone, I was like, there's nothing in there. Completely missed the meeting that I was supposed to go to. That was actually a really important meeting. And I was like, oh my days, this just isn't like me. And then that became much more of a pattern in my behaviour of not being in the right place at the right time with the right stuff. Or having stuff prepared, getting ready to present it, and then having no idea what I've written on any of the slides.
Goodness.
And you're like, I can't keep showing up to work like this. This is like, oh my days. And then the other great one was like being in meetings and trying to record actions or make notes and listen to what was going on at the same time. I'm like, I can do one or the other.
Or the other, right.
You can't do both. And it's like,
and from you being so efficient, so organised, so on it, the lady with the kind of the brain that just is like firing on all cylinders, and suddenly it's like, whoa, you must have been really frightened, or were you just more intrigued than scared?
No, I was bloody terrified. I had no idea what was going on. It was like somebody had stolen the thing that made me me.
Oh, wow. That's an incredible way to describe it. And that is just like, that must be, I can't even imagine how that must feel. Just indescribable. Gosh.
Horrible.
Yeah. And you must, I guess you question everything. And in the back of your head, you must have been wondering, is this it now? Is this ever going to get any better?
So there was a particular piece of software that I used to use that has been replaced by like Power BI by now. So those of you that work in corporate jobs, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's like this whizzy thing that does pretty graphs, data analytics. And I used to have a very clunky version of that where I used to generate lots of performance reporting stuff. And I remember sitting there at my laptop going, right, I can do this. And I'm like, well, how do I do that? Did I really generate all this stuff? I have no idea how I did that. And I was like, yeah, okay, might not be able to do this anymore. I'll just see what I can style out until, things start to recover. And it was horrible.
Shock to the system and a whole identity crisis. And I'm guessing that it wasn't exactly comfortable either. There must have been still some pain because scars healing is not great. And the dental work and that's just going through having that done is not comfortable. So put all that together, and you must have been really in a bit of a state emotionally and mentally. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. It was hard. It was tough. There was a lot kind of going on and trying to take all of that and reconcile it, process it, make peace with it. My NHS GP was truly awful. So when I went to, oh my God. So when I went to speak to him about the stuff going on with my face and could I have a referral to speech therapy, he was basically, no, love, it's not that bad. I'm like, what do you mean it's not that bad? I'm like, I've got, I look like this. I can't really talk very well. I know. You just need to suck it up and just reprioritize what's important in life.
Jeez.
And his piece of advice that he gave me was, with the scar tissue that I had here, was literally to take it and just pull it apart like that.
Goodness me.
Like you're just like pulling orange segments apart. Now, don't ever do that.
Just no.
With my functional health specialist on, please don't ever do that. Please reach out to someone like me, because there's a whole bit of beautiful things that you can do that will make a difference. Indeed. But going back to that, oh my God, it was awful. My private healthcare through work paid for a lot of physio. It was okay, it was mediocre, but I couldn't access anything to look after the head stuff. Because everybody was like, well, it will get better. I'm like, it's been 6 months, it's not got better. I still feel like I'm just like here and the world is going on around me and I'm watching it. And by the time my brain's caught up to take part, the conversation, the activity and everything else has moved on.
Yeah.
Because actually I needed that little bit longer to process everything, to go, oh, what about this? Oh, actually, okay, we've moved on to the next thing now. Yeah. So yeah, it was really, really tough, really, really hard. And I found a local rehab therapist near where I live who specialises in weird. So is really into brain-based rehab, how the brain sends messages from the brain down to different parts of the body, and basically just how all of that stuff works. Right. And I reached out to him. I was like, mate, can you help? And he was like, yeah, totally. And he's went and worked with loads of people with concussion. And I was like, oh, amazing. Right. And then things started to then change. Right. But during that process, I was like, this corporate job of mine, whilst it's lovely, I'm not really sure it's for me. Yeah. I just like, I'm not thriving in this. If anything, I'm barely surviving. And actually, it's not helping me get better.
I was going to say, it probably was hindering your recovery because of the stress of knowing that you were always going to be maybe forgetting something or not be prepared. And
there was always something I hadn't done. And I've never been that person. And whatever it was I had done generally wasn't of the great standard that it should have been.
Right. And so stress, as we know, is just going to arrest recovery big time, isn't it?
Totally. And what's really interesting, and I only know this now, I didn't know this back then, is a lot of the signs and symptoms of concussion mirror the cognitive effects of perimenopause.
Wow. Right. Okay. Yeah. So I didn't know that. Amazing.
And also very, very similar to all the stuff that you get with autoimmune conditions as well. Right. So I'm here and I'm like, oh, actually, is it concussion? Is it the fact I've got RA? Is it the fact it's peri? Although peri wasn't really a word back then. No. It was just something that old ladies went through and you got a bit grumpy. And it was like, I don't really know. I was like, I have no control of my life. So I ended up leaving a job that I loved. It was a really, really tough decision. Took a little bit of time out and then thought about what I wanted. And I knew I didn't want to go back to do that type of role long term, but at some point I needed to earn some money. Yeah. So I knew that short term I'd have to go back and do something similar type of corporate type role, somewhere to generate some income to pay the bills, because obviously that's what we all need to do. But I knew whatever it was would only be a short term until I worked out what it was I was going to do. Right. So I applied for a job locally as just like a local safety manager, just working like two sites, just literally 2 miles apart from each other, with a really high profile organisation. And I was strangely successful. I'm sat there in my interview and raging concussion symptoms still. And I'm like, sorry, can you just repeat the question and break it up into smaller sections? And I've just had surgery on my face again, so I'm bruised and I look like I've really been through the ringer. And I'm sat there with this lady interviewing me, and she was like, yeah, no, can you tell me about this? I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, there's the answer. And what about this? Oh yeah, there's the answer. And miraculously, she gave me the job. Amazing. Now, part of her backstory is that was her first full-time back to work after having a brain tumor removed.
Oh, wow. So she got it. Incredible.
So I've rocked out for day one of this lovely new job, knowing that I only have to work 8 till 4, Monday to Friday. No stress, no pressure. And then I met the people I was going to be working with, and I was like, what on earth have I done? Because coming from a big organisation, a big, well-known PLC, we're used to performing at a particular level. And I joined this team, and I was like, oh my days, what have I done? Things I just took for granted, they just didn't do. It was like having to build foundations and then put the first floor in and everything else. We weren't even repainting the house. So we were literally like, let's mark out the foundations.
Wow.
So, oh, Christ, that wasn't what I'd really signed up for, to be honest. Because I thought, yeah, it's just a nice little job.
Why have to put that much effort into it?
So to be fair, I've got to be honest, right? And I can say this here. I didn't put a massive amount of effort into it for my first 2 years there. Got to be honest. because actually I didn't need to try that hard to look much better than the people I worked with, because they were that awful at their jobs. And I'm just like, yeah. So in some ways, actually, it was quite nice. I didn't have to try that hard.
Yeah, it was.
And whilst I was there, I made it really clear that actually I didn't want any of the leadership nonsense. I was quite happy doing what I did. And I was like, actually, what is it that I really, really want? And I knew I wanted to come back to work with the body again, but I didn't quite know how, didn't quite know what that looked like. So I went off and retook my massage qualifications, because like it'd been a long time since I'd done anything like that. And I was like, okay. So started off slowly with just like doing sports massage, deep tissue massage, all that type of stuff. And I was still working with my rehab chappie, and I was fascinated by the world that he worked in with muscle testing and things like that. I was like, that's what I want to go and learn. I want to be able to make a difference to people like me that have got all manner of weird stuff going on that just makes no sense. And they're really frustrated. They can't get the care and support that they need. And they're just like, oh, I have no idea what's going on in my life. So I was like, that's where I need to go to. But to get there was lots of other things you needed to do to get to that point, to open that door for that particular training course. So it was like, became very much of like, well, I'll do that job over there, and I'm a little 8 till 4 number to pay for the things that I need to do to actually
get the stepping stones in place to get you there. Yeah.
For everything that basically I have and I do now. So it was very useful, I'm not going to lie, to have that, to be able to call upon all of that, to go, right, okay, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. And then we had some internal changes. And then even though I promised myself I would never do this again, I ended up doing it again twice. I ended up in a leadership role. Then I ended up as the head of health, safety and wellbeing. And I was like, oh, what am I doing? Like, do you want the director's job? I'm like, Christ, no, not in the game plan, not interested, don't want to do it. And they're like, you sure you don't want the director's job? I'm like, I'm really good, thanks. Could you caretake it whilst we recruit for a new one? I'm like, totally in for that, but I'm only doing the 4 days a week because I've gone part-time now.
Yeah.
So I went part-time during COVID, and best thing I ever did. So I was like, 4 days a week, lovely, thank you very much. Now it's Monday to Thursday, 8 till 4. And I was like, yeah, do you know what? Because the type of organisation where I worked, nothing particularly interesting ever happened on a Friday. The world never missed me. Yeah. So I'm like, why even bother showing up? And it's like, my team are there, my team are great. So actually, if stuff goes on, they know when they need to contact me if they really have to. But quite frankly, they've got it. They don't need me. Yeah, I just get in the way.
And so that allowed you to focus on doing what you do now.
Yeah. Doing what I do now. So see, it was good really in the end. And towards the end of COVID, I was like, do you know what? I've had enough of this now. I think I'm ready to start making more of a transition. So my team went into an OD review, and where I was going to go was I was going to try and generate a part-time role for me as a practitioner in the team, and I handle the other leadership nonsense over to somebody else. Because I was like, do you know what? It doesn't bring me joy. I don't really want to do it. Actually, quite like the security having a permanent part-time income whilst I build this up. The OD review didn't go that way. It didn't happen that way at all. No. Couldn't be further from the truth. So I ended up leaving the organisation. And I was like, okay, let's have some time off for a little bit. And I was like, okay. And then had some crazy family stuff going on. So I'm thinking, I'll just give myself a couple of months off and just work out what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Then my mum was poorly. Then my dad passed away. Then my husband's parents were poorly, and then both passed away. So then it turned into a really shit year.
Wow, that's a lot in 1 year.
A lot. Whilst navigating your own menopause journey now.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, okay. I'm like, yeah, do you know what? Not quite ready to return to corporate world. Quite happy looking at it from afar, going, I'll come and be a consultant for you. But actually, don't want to be in your world all week long, because actually the world here in functional health world is really cool and really awesome, because we do some really cool stuff.
So this is where people are probably itching to know, what is functional health?
What is functional health? So there's lots of ways you can describe this, but the way that I would go is helping you through your transitional phase in life, whatever that looks like. So generally the people I work with are recovering from a life misadventure, or my other special place that I love to be is helping people recover from surgery. So in terms of functional health in that space, what does it look like? It looks like emotional coaching. It looks at physical health, it looks at movement, it looks at nutrition, it can get into hormones, it's literally everything. It's the stuff that makes us be able to feel great about ourselves. So whether that is the story you tell yourself, whether we're dealing with childhood trauma, whether we're just dealing with straight up movement rehab. Actually, to be honest, it's never straight up movement rehab. There's always emotional stuff. Don't kid yourself, it's always there.
Yeah. So basically, it's you are now doing what you needed when you had your accident.
Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So earlier on this week, I had the absolute privilege of working on a tummy scar. I'm not going to get too graphic about this, but this particular scar went from the top of somebody's pubic hair area all the way up to just underneath their ribs.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a big scar. I don't see many huge scars like that anymore, because most of it's now keyhole and tiny little scars like this, even for like hip replacements and stuff.
Right.
And this scar was 30 years old.
Yeah.
And
well, that kind of sounds right, because that is how surgery was done 30 years ago.
Yeah, so literally. And this lovely lady was just like, I just don't feel like me. I'm like, I'm not surprised. And in that one session together, we achieved some really, really marvellous things, to the point that actually she can now roll over onto her side and set herself up without being in pain. I'll take that as a win any day of the week. Yeah. She can stand up and she can now squat properly. I know, that's exciting, isn't it?
It is.
And when you're a lady of a particular age, there's a lot of dignity in being able to squat properly, because it means you can get yourself up and off the toilet on your own.
Correct.
You don't need help.
Yeah, so important.
Yeah, really important stuff. So, if you're ever going to do stuff in the gym or just at home, please just squat, because actually it's going to be your dignity when you're in your 80s.
Yeah.
So for her, that one session has changed her life. She's coming back next week, and I can't wait, because it's going to be really exciting.
Yeah, and so this is the beauty, isn't it, of what you do, because every individual case has got so much else going on, and it's that combination, that whole holistic looking at everything. But crucially, from what you've said as well, your experience with the practitioners who were supposedly in the health caring profession, like your GP and what have you, were not really giving you the, I hate the term bedside manner, but they weren't giving you that person to person. I am listening to what you are saying, and let's work this out together. Let's figure out what you need and how we can best help you to make it better for you, right? And that's what you do, isn't it? That's key to it.
Yeah. So there was no being seen, there was no being heard. So actually, the one thing that I can really do for my people when they come in is actually give them the space to be seen and heard, help them understand what's going on with their body. And quite often with people who've been through a journey like mine, or a trauma-based, emergency-based surgery, so like emergency C-section, there's going to be emotions tied up in that recovery process, because, there's going to be particular narratives that you've been told. There's going to be scary stories that you've been told. And our brain holds on to each one of those and stores them away and says, oh, yeah, okay, so actually...
File that for later.
What's that? The summer's coming. We're going to the beach. Oh, okay, you can put up... Oh, no, somebody might see my scar. Oh, look, I've got a pouch. I've got an overhang. Oh, I know. I can't wear a swimsuit.
Yeah, all of those stories, such powerful stuff. And this is where the fascination with the brain and how the brain and body are so intrinsically linked, and the madness of us talking about them as separate is just that madness.
I mean, there's things that we can get into in the world of muscle testing, where we can tell whether a movement pattern or an action is not working as it should do, and whether that causal factor is actually an emotion, a thought, or a feeling just by doing one particular thing. So if I was like, okay, you can just put your hands on your head, now let's do the movement again. Oh, actually, it's massively different. Okay, well, actually, there's some type of emotion, thought, feeling here that's going on that's stopping the body from being able to move as it should, as nature intended. And it's like,
and it's
wow.
incredible. So just so that to let people know, can you do this? And I'm assuming you can online, or do people have to come and see you in person?
So COVID was, whilst it was a sucky gift for most people, actually it absolutely forced me to work out how to do everything I do in person online.
Brilliant.
So I spent most of my COVID days working with cyclists with grumpy pelvic floors and wonky knees and dodgy ankles, and sore necks, because actually we had nothing else to do apart from ride our bikes.
Yeah.
And I know during my own COVID journey, I was riding 120k a week.
Wow.
Because
so your injury didn't stop you from getting back on your bike then?
Well, so so I do a different type of riding to what I used to do now.
Right.
I'm much more sedate about the world, and I'm not so great if there's lots of trees both sides. Got to be honest.
Not surprised.
Not surprised. I'm like,
Yeah.
I have ridden down that bit of track though, only
Have
once.
you?
It was horrible. Hated every minute of it. And because I can't really, I know it's in the top third of the track. Don't really know where. I'm quite okay with that. I don't really want to know where.
Yeah. No.
So it's not like I want to revisit the tree. I'm like, no, I'm all right, thanks. Or go and look for my front teeth. I'm like, oh, I'm okay.
No.
I can stay there. Like,
so the online side of things then, I mean, obviously that's so much more beneficial for you being able to help more people, because you're not tied to you physically having to see them face to face. So if people did want to come to you, if anything that, you've shared about your issues that are similar to, what happens with concussion and it being like menopause and the actual you getting through the menopause journey, because that's a whole other thing that you talk about and share about. But also if they've had or are having struggles with their physical movements, and they suspect that, it potentially is because of something that happened in the past, or maybe they've had an accident, they never really properly felt that they could move properly again with it. How do they find you? Where's the best place to seek you out?
Where's the best? So I'm everywhere, I've got to be honest. So you can find me on Facebook at Restore and Balance TM. You can find me on LinkedIn underneath my name, which is Cloud. You can find me on the Tinternet under restoring-balance.co.uk. Yep.
So you are online. Do you have a website?
Of course I do. I'm just going to bring it up now because I'm like, I can't quite remember what it is.
Well, don't worry. We'll put all of the links will go in the show notes, folks. And if you are watching on YouTube, they'll be in the description box. But so you can go and click on Claire and find out just what she does. Can they book with you online?
Oh, totally. So literally, like the way I've structured everything is you can literally do everything online. You don't actually have to talk to me unless you really want to in the booking process. I'm cool with that because actually it takes care of a lot of like admin that is just completely overwhelming for my brain. I'm like, oh, can't do that. So yeah, you can find me on all the social media, even on TikTok. Where actually TikTok is mostly about my cat, but she's great.
Right, so you are everywhere. She didn't make an appearance. I'm quite sad about that. We heard her, but we didn't see her. So if you could, yeah, bless her. She's probably thought, well, you've ignored me for long enough. I'm just not bothering now. If you can sum up in a sentence or two a message that you would like people to take away from what they've heard today, what do you think that would be?
So the first one is, even when you think it's really, really bad, it's probably going to get a little bit worse, but then it's going to get massively better. And from that, you are going to learn exactly how tough and resilient you are. And also, you're going to learn who your real friends are as well when you're in that place. Because certainly for me, Some of my girlfriends showed their true colours during my own journey, when I was particularly in the soft food phase of it. And they were like, "Oh, yeah, we're going out for lunch, but we're not going to invite you because you like a child." I was like, "Okay." So first one is, even when it's tough, you're going to find strength that you didn't know you had. And out of everything, no matter how dark it feels, there'll always be something beautiful that comes at the end. But you don't necessarily know what that beautiful thing is until you take that chance to go, "Oh my God, that was an epic journey."
Amazing. Wow.
Yes.
What a note to end on, Claire. That has been such a journey that we've gone on with you. Thank you for being so open and honest and sharing all of that. Folks, as always, I'm going to leave you with this. We only have one life, as far as we know, and one body. Please take care of it, because it is taking care of you. Until next time, see you soon. Bye-bye.